Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 530. This is your guide to the geek side, and I am one of your hosts, Todd Oxtra, ready to get rolling. I'll tell you, man, I am 50 now, and I've got friends retiring. I feel even older because of that. People should not be retiring at 50. It's so weird. People used to have to retire when they were 70.
People usually don't. That's it's a little different. We're talking about, it's a different situation, but yeah.
True. Yes. But 25 years. My brother-in-law retired from the military at 20 years, and people do. So it's kind of crazy. Your brother did the same, Charlie. Kind of crazy.
No boy. Yeah, you're talking about people who work for the government, but us regular schmucks are out there schlepping away. But anyway, yeah, we're here. We're ready to rock and roll. We have a Patreon and an incredible human being as our guest today, Luke Lohr. It's been too long since you've been on board. We need to talk about some Star Trek, but we'll do that at another time. But it's good to see you, man. What's going on?
Oh, man, a lot's going on. I was in Los Angeles last week for gaming conventions, which is an interesting time to be in Los Angeles.
Not bad.
I learned a lot. I'll put it that way. I learned a lot. It was strange. Melancholic, I think, is the right way to put it.
Yeah.
Luke,
yeah.
It was great to see you, man. With you were with everybody. Phil Spencer, a lot of execs, Sarah Bond. Got to see some really awesome people that I know tangentially through the world of podcasting, but you were around all those awesome people. Very jealous of you. And Logan got his controller signed, which was very cool by, an exec at his level. I couldn't go up to a boss at the level of Phil Spencer at my work and just say, "Can you sign something for me?" That doesn't even happen.
Please sign the cereal box. That'd be great. Come on.
It doesn't maybe. I don't know.
They don't mess around with the little people. Well, anyway, got a great show for you. We are wrapping up the Summer of Superman retrospectively before launching into the film in just a couple of weeks here, and we have news and we have all kinds of other great stuff to talk about. But first and foremost, as always, a little segment I like to call Paying the Bills, by giving some love and respect to the wonderful folks who are part of our Secret Friends Unite Patreon, one of whom may be in this room, virtually speaking. But the people who do our Patreon get exclusive shows, early shows, ad-free programs, all kinds of Discord benefits for 7 days for free. Little as $2 a month, and as little as 50% off your first month. Folks like my friend Derek Trevelyan, the figure dude, Francie, who does my wife's hair, Luke Lohr, oh, there you are, is also part of that august family, and my Uncle Tim down there in South Haven, Michigan. Also John Sedorf, Brendan Myers, Corey and HD, Matthew Keel, my buddy Kurt Krug, who's helps us out with all those great spotlight interviews, introducing us to people. Tanya Lee, Chipotle Bear, Famous Seamus, Cam the Movie Man, JP Newport 007, or J Newport. Why JP? That sounds very like on the Scotch ad, don't you think? It's like Captain Morgan. Oh, JP Newport. No, okay, fine. And Prozac Man, aka Darth Prozac. Love all of you. Thank you for supporting us, not the least of which is the awesome Nias family of the Twin Cities, Sean, Stella, and Henry. Thank you for being here with us. And again, patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. Try us out for 7 days for free, and I think you will want to stick around for excitement such as what's going on here with this cover. I don't even know.
Well, Charlie, before we move on, I just want to give a preview of some cool interviews we've got coming. We've got Chris Claremont, the godfather of the X-Men. We interviewed him. That was amazing. We also have one of the co-creators of Deadpool, Cable, X-Force. That's Mr. Fabian Nicieza. So it's very, very exciting to have these really cool creators. And so if you're interested, go ahead.
I have a 1-2 punch. Luke, you'll appreciate this. This upcoming Friday on our Patreon, we interviewed Tim Russ, Tuvok of Star Trek Voyager, and I can't even tell you about the one that follows that, but it's so big in the Star Trek world that it goes back to the Foundation. of the
Gene
program.
Roddenberry sounds good. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. AI has resurrected Gene Roddenberry.
I'm holding on to that one, but I'm very, very excited about that. So yeah, you don't want to pass up our Spotlight show. So anyway,
no. Before you, didn't you guys have Ron Mars recently?
We had Ron Mars, which you asked a question. Luke, I got to ask your question to him.
I haven't listened to it yet, but just in honor of that, I wanted you guys to know I was thinking of you. On my summer reading is my Kyle Rayner compendium, and I love Kyle Rayner. He's my favorite Lantern.
Tell you what, I don't know that one has dropped yet. So there's a preview.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. It's been banked, and it's going to be coming out. Ron was amazing. He was great. He would have talked all day.
Yeah. Well, Claremont did talk all day. That was nearly a 2 hour
interview.
But tune into that and have a good time. But plug. Patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. It is worth your time. You will enjoy it. Okay, circling back, Action Comics. By the time you could just probably pluck an issue that matches our episode number, because Action Comics has like 1,100 issues. They were
Charlie. If I did that, it would just be Action Comics and Detective Comics, because nothing has lasted past like 530 unless you go to like that weird Marvel, the retro numbering, which I don't believe. Fake numbering.
No, it's all legacy numbering in Marvel. All right, what do we got?
Okay, so the game guys, we got this covered. I'll describe the cover, and Luke and Charlie have to tell us what's going on in this comic, and I'll give you a grade based on your actual description. So we got Action Comics 330. On this cover, it says, finally, a new villain who is more than a match for Superman and Supergirl. And then we've got a big bubble, or a big word caption that says, more sinister than Luthor, craftier than Brainiac, the diabolical Dr. Supernatural. We've got Superman, and then we've got Dr. Supernatural. I assume they wouldn't bring in another villain that says, watch the birdie, Supergirl. See how my execution buzzard wipes out the mighty Superman. We've got execution buzzard that is holding. Superman's holding on to it. It looks really bad.
He's getting electrocuted, and it looks like it has jaundice. I mean, you look at yellow.
It has no feathers on the main body, and then Dr. Supernatural looks like a genie because he's a puff of smoke. So Luke, you get the first crack at this, and then Charlie will do the same.
First, I will say this cover reminds me of the old, where they didn't have words, Superman cartoon. One of the first episodes was where
Fleischer?
Those. The first episode was where Superman goes up into this like observatorium, and there's a buzzard that flies around there. It reminded me of that. But all right, so I'm thinking Dr. Supernatural has this magic bird that traps Superman with some sort of electric field, and Supergirl has to figure out how to get him out.
Use a fork, like poke him.
Yeah.
Be a conductor. Let's see here. So Dr. Supernatural does not have legs. So this was maybe an early stab at bringing awareness to ADA. I don't know. The buzzard is electrocuting him now. If he was grounded in water, is it you have to be standing in water or not standing in water to get electrocuted? What's the rule in movies? Don't you be like, I'm going to electrocute this guy, but I'm standing in water, so I'm good. So
no, you want to be grounded with either like shoes that are grounded, or you want to touch something else and pass the electricity to someone else, Charlie. You do not want to stand in water. If you've not seen how you defeat a robot in a cartoon, it's always water.
Right. And this was obviously before Supergirl, when she still had it's not quite a mini skirt, but also no shorts. Just Kryptonian like uniform fashion. There's no rhyme or reason. I really don't know what's going on here. But yeah, that's why I think Dr. Supernatural's so pissed off, is that he doesn't have legs and doesn't know how to articulate his feelings. There's not accommodations made for the differently abled. I think that's what's at the root of this story.
I appreciate your empathy with those that are differently abled, Charlie. I'm assuming that's not what it was. Unfortunately, the link I had, this doesn't give a lot about Dr. Supernatural, but it does. I'll give you like the plots within this comic. One of them is there's multiple stories, which is great. Red Kryptonite causes Superman to steal things beginning with the letter S and give them to the poor. Justice League of America ad. Apparently there's an ad for that.
Here's a pile of shit. There you go. Ooh,
yeah, Supergirl's duel with Dr. Supernatural. The script was by Leo Dorfman, art by Jim Mooney. And then on the Purple Planet, Supergirl battles Drang. So Drang must have been Dr. Supernatural, who was in prison. The heroes of many different planets. And there was also Rocky and Bullwinkle Cheerios ad in this comic.
Oh, I thought you were saying there's Rocky and Bullwinkle with Superman and Supergirl. There's a Fantastic Four that I think would not really set the movie world on fire, but what do I know? That's great. And
honestly, nobody knows what happened in this comic, so you'll all just have to go to DC Universe Infinite and check it out for yourself.
Did we have a date on this? 12-cent cover price means early 60s.
November 1965, so 3 years before my parents got married, and 10 years before I was born. And then,
oh my goodness.
Yes.
Look out.
And Luke is going to laugh at me because I'm old.
My friend, I turned 40 this year, which to most people...
40?
Yeah, to you guys, but like to most people, my students think I'm really old.
So. Well,
that's true.
But they're not incorrect. But Todd, the good news is Todd is a full year older than I am, so he's the old one. I am still in my 40s, which I just feel great about. Anyway,
but at least we all act our age, and we don't talk about people in tights or capes or wearing weird space outfits. You know, we don't.
Right?
We're very mature.
We don't do that at all. No.
Like I said, I genuinely feel for Dr. Supernatural. I think he needs counsel. But I got to tell you, looking at this cover, the thing that really stands out to me is the drop dead resemblance between the execution buzzard and our own senior news correspondent, Madam Web, who was 65 when this comic came out. But you know what? She's had some plastic surgery over the years, and she has arms now instead of wings, I think. But she's down at the corner of Hollywood and Vine. Maybe, Luke, you saw her when you were down there in L.A., potentially. But she's got the hottest scoops and news for us as we venture into the realm of the news with Madam Web. Let's do it.
Now it's time for Madam Web's rumors and news. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Web. Now, Luke, this goes back a long way. The first E3 was around 1996 after it became a CES. And you remember the old concept of booth babes? Well, let's put it this way. In 1996, Madam Web was the first booth babe, but she was there on her own accord trying to make it a thing. Didn't go well, but she was replaced. Then she sued E3 for ageism and booth babed them. And so she's a pioneer for seniors that want to be booth babes. So with that, we've got a couple news pieces. The first one is Spaceballs 2 was finally announced, and we're getting some casting. So at this point, we've got Lewis Pullman, who is the son of Bill Pullman, who is the lead actor within Spaceballs, is joining the spoof as Lone Star's son. And we've got some plot details. Mel Brooks will be reprising his role as Yogurt.
Wow.
I hope they better film now. I hope they film now.
It's very similar to any time I see Star Trek Con. Oh, William Shatner is our guest. I'm like, this show is in November and it's summertime, and he's 94. He's supposed to be on the cruise next year. April and I will be on the cruise again. I hope he makes it.
Well, we do. And then we got some notes about the plot. Lewis Pullman is playing Starburst, the son of Lone Star, and Queen Vespa, Daphne Uziga, who is also now expected to return, which is great. Oh, wow. Starburst is one of the film's three main characters, along with Destiny, played by Keke Palmer. Good pick. Character played by Josh Gad, who is yet to be named. Is he a Scroob, a helmet, a barf? We'll see. And at this point, Bill Pullman's son, he's been Bob in Top Gun. He was Bob in Thunderbolts as well. And he was, basically at this point.
And so are we missing the opportunity to call him Star Bob? Maybe? Nickname?
We'll see. At this point, we did see... Luke, did you see the trailer for this or the announcement for this?
Yes. Yeah, it's more... The trailer is an announcement in this unique case.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, all right.
Gotcha. Well, this is fantastic. So we all know that there's a lot of danger with legacy sequels, right? I would just honestly love to believe that they couldn't go wrong. Now, there was History of the World part 2? Part 3?
Part 2.
Yeah.
Part 2 is on Prime.
That came out recently, and obviously that is it's a little safer, I would say, when it's a streaming project, nothing ventured, nothing gained. But this is going up on the big screen, and it's one of the most certainly beloved spoofy comedies of Gen X, I think. I mean, I think it was very big with people in our bracket, Todd and I. Not you, Luke. I don't know when this made
this
it to
came out
you.
in, what, 86? Like the first Spaceballs came out in 86?
87, yeah.
So Luke, 87, you were born. So you were born. So you're 2. Did you watch Spaceballs at all? Was it a thing in your wheelhouse?
I've watched it, yes, but I wasn't. I was in my I was probably 13, 14 when I first watched it.
In the 2000s, yeah, I gotcha.
My favorite part is the aforementioned and previously referenced Tim Russ.
Yes.
His iconic line in Spaceballs is the best line.
That is certainly a claim to me. I thought it would be very hackneyed to bring that up in our conversation, so I did not.
Yes.
But you will you'll absolutely love his take on Beatles versus Stones because he's a musician. That's his other great passion in life. So, yeah, I'm fired up. So it says coming to theaters. I'm wondering what time of year that's going to be a big year in the summertime. So I hope this is maybe outside of that window so it doesn't get swallowed up. But
this is coming from Amazon, so Amazon is now distributing and making films, which is great. But they describe the film as a non-prequel, non-reboot sequel, part 2, but with reboot elements, franchise expansion film.
Expansion film. Isn't every sequel is an expansion film? Well, I'm very excited. And of course, the natural fear is, like with any of these legacy sequels, for it to somehow do a dishonor to the original, but it's a spoof. So a spoof is just going to spoof what's been around it. So I would love to say they can't go wrong. I would love to say that. Do you think,
I mean, the original brought in aliens, it did some other things. Luke, do you think they're going to parody, just go all sci-fi, anything is available to be parodied beyond Star Wars?
I think it's going to be a pop culture reference, so whatever's topical at the time. So you're going to get people making fun of Star Wars, sequel, prequel, more jokes like that. You're going to get a lot of Marvel, Marvel humor. I think
Guardians, Guardians and Spider-Man. Yeah.
But I feel the problem is, like, pop culture now is so niche based. Like, you can just live in your own world of pop culture and not know about anything else.
That's true.
So I don't know what they'll do, but I bet you it's a lot of Marvel and Star Wars jokes.
Yeah. I have no doubt.
I honestly think you're going to get some Family Guy-esque humor. And that's the
Scott
idea.
McFarlane's producing this, and it's got the the Lonely Island guys directing this, Kiva.
Didn't even realize that. So yeah, I stand by it.
Yeah,
nailed it.
And just like he's going to be directing another film that we're talking about here shortly. But yeah,
so
all right. Well,
I will say Marvel. Though, best parody of a science fiction film, Galaxy Quest.
Yeah,
very true.
Fair.
So much so that a lot of the more fringe Trekkers consider it a Star Trek film. They also lump in the Orville with that, but we're not going to have that conversation because I'm going to get too hot under the collar. But I do love Galaxy Quest. All right, we're fully into talking about Marvel. And Todd, you have an affinity for the Midnight Suns. That was Blade and the Man Thing, and there was Doctor Strange was in there. But what's the development you got going on here?
So with the inability to get a Blade film relaunched, apparently Marvel this is Daniel Richman, who, it's funny, you cannot get he's only on like Patreon. You cannot access his content because it's paywalled. So stuff gets out and then gets it there.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. But he basically at this point, he's saying we're going to see a deviation of who will lead the Midnight Suns, because the whole thing was Blade was supposed to be the leader of the supernatural of Marvel, bringing in Werewolf by Night, Man Thing, all those disparate elements. And now it sounds like they're shifting to Ghost Rider. And Luke Lohr, I believe you've been made fun of because you don't understand Ghost Rider. Your co-host has made fun of you for that. But Ghost Rider has had 2 blockbuster films from the magnificent Nicolas Cage. We got Ghost Rider also in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I love that version.
That's a good version.
Todd loves that show. Just ask him.
He's been in a lot of video games. He's been in a lot of things. And he's had various different versions of Ghost Rider. We had Johnny Blaze. We also had, what is the other ones we've had, Charlie?
Was played by Diego Luna.
No, I'm thinking of the other versions of the Marvel versions. We've got a younger one, Diego, I think.
Yeah, the Punisher was a recent version, wasn't he?
Yep.
That was one comic that we read. But point of order, Luke, in 30 words or less, what do you find mystifying about the Ghost Rider? I'm curious what someone would have to said, like, how could you not get the Ghost Rider? Like, what's up? Rap to me.
It was a dumb power set. Like,
okay,
he's got this, like, he's revenge driven, cool. Yeah. Flaming head, chains, cool. But his motorcycle works, or a horse if you want it to be. That's just weird.
Oh, it's like the Venom horse, right? Like you can put Venom into anything.
That didn't make sense either.
I put Venom into this helicopter. Ooh, yeah, exactly. Okay.
You know where that comes from, though, Luke? It actually comes from the comic. Johnny Blaze was like a evil Knievel type.
Yeah,
and when he
in the 70s,
the devil, became the spirit.
Big,
basically, because it was tied to him, his bike became part of his persona. But to your point, it's kind of weird because the new Ghost Rider who's younger, it's like now a Chevelle or a Camaro that he drives around in.
Yeah, fancy car. Yeah, exactly. All right, so when you say you didn't get it, I'm like, what don't you get? Like, I get that you don't like it because it's stupid. Now I understand.
I like things that aren't stupid, like tight blue outfits and red S's.
Hello.
Power rings, right? Yes.
Power rings.
Jewelry is cool, man. Right. Not a motorcycle. Motorcycles are lame, right,
exactly.
Luke?
Right. Everybody knows.
That's what Luke tells all the bikers.
Unless you're wearing a bat suit.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you're wearing the purple bike from Batgirl 66, right?
Oh, my gosh. Am I seeing that Mia Goth is also casting this? Todd, your favorite fake actress?
Well, she was supposed to be the villain in Blade, and now that it's being complicated because she's going to be the Star Wars Starfighter film with Ryan Gosling. So at this point, I think they have to move on from Blade. Blade will eventually come back in some way, but moving it forward with a character like Ghost, with Ghost Rider, who's got some at least cachet, but to your point, Luke, he's got to win a lot of people over because the variations we've had were either Nick Cage versions, which quite honestly, the second movie was full on Nick Cage, and then you've got the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which quite honestly 3 people saw. So we still see this happens, but I think it's the right movement to move this forward and get the supernatural elements moving on. I don't know. They should have just done Dr. Voodoo, Charlie.
Oh, I like Dr. Voodoo with Damien Hellstrom. By the way, it was Robbie Reyes is the name you were struggling for.
That's right, Robbie.
Gabriel Luna of The Last of Us played him, but it was about 10 years old.
But Ghost Rider is the spirit of vengeance, so Ghost Rider can go into anyone. Right. So that's what makes it kind of cool.
Just like, exactly. All right, well, still talking about
Luke,
Marvel.
Will you open your heart to Ghost Rider? That's all I want to know. Will you open your heart to Ghost Rider?
When it comes to streaming, absolutely.
He sounds like a Jehovah's Witness question. Well, speaking about opening your heart, though, in this picture here, it's a little bit more like open your face. Vision Quest is filming over in the UK. Todd Stashwick, who's someone I've met on several occasions, his Instagram has been filled with his time in England and in Ireland. He was in a pub with SFU contributor Sean Farrick recently. That was pretty cool. But the program is set to bring AI versions of existing voices like Friday or Jocasta into the mix. So is this one of the few things we've heard about that's going to be moving forward with TV, like live action shows?
Yeah, Vision Quest is moving forward. And to your point, the interesting thing is it's very ironic. In the world of AI is being replaced by humans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and this was what the strikes were all about a couple of years ago. So hopefully this is being handled kind of with care. But I've always loved the Vision. I'm a big Avengers guy. I read the Avengers, in the 80s and 90s when I was growing up. And the Vision has always been one of the main dudes. You're getting Emily Hampshire is coming over to play the voice or the personification of the Edith glasses that Peter Parker had. Now she was in What was that great show? Schitt's Creek, right? Wasn't she?
Maybe. And remind me, is Edith like the name of Tony Stark's mom?
No, that was Maria. Edith was an
Who
acronym.
is Edith?
It was
Dead.
It was an
because Jarvis was obviously the butler, so they made him AI.
Right.
I just thought Edith would have been like
maybe he was a nanny, but James Spader is again back as Ultron. The Jocasta again, old school Ultron is Tina Miller. I'm not sure if I know who that is.
Tina Miller, yeah.
Tina, maybe. And then Farhad Tahir is back as the OG. He was the original Iron Man villain in the first Iron Man film. He was the guy that kept Iron Man in the cage in the desert, who I thought he was dead because don't you remember there was that scene where Jeff Bridges showed up and they mowed down all his guys?
No.
But they left him alive, I guess. Yeah. Well, no, it's because we see him later on wandering around the desert or something. I don't know. And then, yes, Todd Stashwick, as I was talking about. So,
yeah. And yes, Emily Hampshire, she played basically the woman that ran the hotel in Schitt's Creek.
Yeah, I thought so. So anyway, with this filming now, I'm totally guessing this will be a 2026 release. But again, I just struggle to think what else is on the slate for Marvel TV right now. There's no sequel seasons coming up that I can.
It's going to be a lot of animation because we're getting Ironheart soon, and a lot of animation after that. Then then this. That's about it. Luke. In regards to the Marvel shows, not sure where you stand, what you watched, but hearing about a Vision Quest series focused on Vision after he left in a puff of smoke in a white suit. Where are you at with it?
Marvel has really let me go. The show's really burned a lot of bridges. WandaVision, I did not. It's as impressive as many of their things were. I didn't get into it. So Marvel has to win me back. That said, they're going to need a higher bar of quality than was it Miss Marvel? I thought that was really bad. But then I
didn't care for it. It was for me.
I am excited for what they're doing with Avengers Doomsday. And that might reignite some interest in general in going back to this. So I think that's going to really come down to it. The cool part about this for me is seeing James Spader come back.
Yes.
I thought his Ultron brought a fairly irrelevant character to be super relevant, cool, relatable, and very intimidating.
Which was the beauty of what the MCU always did. Yeah. It was MCU. All of those old, Avengers characters were very inside baseball to comic fans, but to the world in general, it's not like it was a Lex Luthor or a Joker. It was always Ultron, which is very well known to people like me, but not at all well known to anyone else. So you're
he's a high-end comic book character if you're into that, but for other people, they have no clue who he was. Luke, I was going to ask you about what about the animated stuff on Marvel, like either like the X-Men '97 or the new Spider-Man. Was it Freshman Class, Charlie?
Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. That was the original name. That's right. So points.
Loved '97. Watched it twice. Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man couldn't get into. Something didn't click. I don't know what it was. Never cared for What If past a certain point. What
about a Marvel Zombies? That's supposed to be coming up too, animated. Just focus on Marvel Zombies.
Maybe during Halloween.
Okay. Like one shot.
To be honest, as a show, I'll side with Luke on this one. I think it could get a little shticky. I don't know that you could make a whole show out of it. I don't know. I liked it as a What If episode and then a little aside. So I guess you kind of lit the spark with me, Luke, because I agree with you on that one. And I am a Marvel zombie. Everybody knows that about me.
Mm-hmm. Man, zombie hate, Ghost Rider hate, man.
Oh my God.
The problem is Marvel had us on such a high for so long. Phases 1 through 3 were just so good, and 4
steep cliff.
And I honestly I feel like the MCU ended at Endgame with nice little post credits of Spider-Man and Hawkeye. And I will tell you, we talk about Marvel shows. I completely forgot and neglected that I loved Daredevil Born Again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But where does that exist? We're still not quite sure.
It's in there, but it's not in there. It's not. Yeah, it is part of things, but it's nothing. Yeah, it's nothing to the big picture.
Yeah, I would recommend one show that Charlie and I both really enjoyed that surprised us because we thought it was being dubbed and died, and that was Echo. Really excellent. It's a great part of the Daredevil series, focuses on Native American experience.
Yeah.
I thought it was highly excellent. And really didn't rely on anything except for Maya's relationship with Kingpin.
Yeah,
that was it.
Yeah, and it was well handled. So I totally agree. Well, we can at least slide into something that we know Luke is totally into based on his appearance this evening.
See the shirt, Luke.
Yep, I like it. Whoop, whoop. Looking good. I have a Superman shirt too, but I have it for this because I'm really fired up for this. But yeah, we got what is probably a final trailer when tickets went on sale last week for Superman. I know I grabbed mine. Where he caps it off by talking about the fact that he's doing some important stuff. But this is a 2-minute trailer packed with new footage and gave us our first real shot of Lex Luthor. So, Luke, walk us through the trailer, man. Tell us about this trailer.
Let me pull it up so I'm doing the actual right
Well, the
thing.
link actually has a lot of description of what happened. So the link is also includes a description of what happened.
Right. So one thing I want to credit all of James Gunn's trailers for Superman is they've done a great job at capturing the spirit of what he's going for, which is a very approachable for mass audiences, quite polar to Snyder's efforts, I think.
Agreed.
But a very approachable comic booky interpretation of it. So of course you see Luthor arriving to the Fortress of Solitude, which is something we've seen in several Superman movies. Across several different directors. So this is his take on it. Luthor, extremely vile and completely unbothered that he has metahumans with him, which is just a consistent reminder that this version of Superman exists in a world where all types of special is there.
Right.
Love the spotlights on Pa Kent, which they do again. And then they really do spotlight once again that Luthor is menacing, evil, and can hurt Superman.
You're right.
Which is always the conundrum that you come to whenever you're going to create a Superman world. I also want to shout out this particular trailer because it does a very good job at something that Snyder also did very well with his, and Singer did with his Superman, and that was a sense of scale, but it's very differently shown.
Yeah.
So with Singer, and I know you guys have already talked Superman Returns, the scale of what they were talking about was really cool in how he showed Superman floating above Earth. Snyder's always been extremely good at showcasing the gravity of a moment and how big something is. Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like Gunn does a very good job in his trailers of showing just how big his world is and how maybe small his Superman might be fighting a kaiju, but how big the moments are.
Yeah.
And he juxtaposes those super well with it's about a minute and 40 some odd seconds into the trailer where Superman does the thing we've seen several times now where he jumps out in front of I don't know what they are, but they look like parts of an organ exploding, and he's protecting the girl.
Right.
He does the two-handed cover up.
Mm-hmm.
You're muted, my friend. Todd.
The gas cylinders.
Yeah,
yes,
there
thank
you go.
you. I feel like that is such a great moment because it's reminiscent of something we saw. We're going to talk about BVS, but Bruce Wayne doing the same thing, protecting a girl from tragically falling things. And for all the kaiju fighting and the city saving and the laser beams and the robots, he's worried about this one little girl in that moment. Again, the spirit of Superman. I love it.
It's a great voiceover at that exact moment because you have Luthor saying as voiceover, well, they chose him, they can die with him too. And that's when that's just, I mean, this
yes, that's a Luthor and a snapshot right there. It's like, it's them or us, or them or me. Right?
And this has been, to me, the most vile, and of course you might include Kevin Spacey and how vile he is in real life, but on screen Nicholas Hoult is projecting to me just with his words how vicious he really is. And I'm kind of titillated by that. I look forward to seeing kind of how that shakes out.
I love how you said that, the most vile, because honestly Spacey not Hugh Jackman, oh my gosh, Gene Hackman's Luthor, because they're the same one but sort of not. That Luthor is probably the most destructive of any Luthor we've seen, in that he's building islands and destroying continents, and that's the goal. And then Jesse Eisenberg's Luthor is cruel and manipulative and scheming and clearly psychotic because he's too smart for the world.
Yeah.
This one just seems mean. And I love that because that's going to be so relatable for audiences. Because ultimately, as a Superman fan, as a DC fan, as a DC fan, I just want people to love the characters I love.
Yeah.
And it looks like Gunn's formula is going to allow for more people to love it.
Right. Accessibility. Yes. Right.
Exactly. And that's a Star Trek problem too, is accessibility for some.
Oh yeah, especially in the last decade. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think what I really like about this is the first time we are getting Superman in a shared world of DC. Just think about it when you were reading a comic book when you were a kid. A world of Superman existed, and you just launched in. And you just had to make sense of what it is. And it just meant that if you really wanted to find out all the stuff in the past, you could. Right. But it would add to your value. It didn't mean that you couldn't enjoy getting. And I like this. We don't need to have everything explained. And it says he trusts us to be smart enough to say, hey, it's a dude with the power. We don't need a mini series or a movie to understand his motivation. Just kind of like we got Guardians of the Galaxy. He introduced how many iconic characters in that movie with just a little bit of another personality, and we get their story. And you have to say it. I like that Guy Gardner has a moment here. He goes, "Make a move, Big Blue." And you get Guy Gardner right there.
Yeah,
I love that.
You're right. Just an arrogant prick. Absolutely.
But a prick with a heart, right? It's like me. I'm Guy Gardner.
Yeah, you got a part of that right. The first part, no, but no, you're right. It's become a convention. Hopefully, with these superhero films, that they know that the zeitgeist in general knows where Spider-Man came from, knows that Batman's parents got killed, knows that Superman is, a space orphan of many thousands of years in the past. So jump in. But even I've heard this Superman has been active in Metropolis for like 3 or 4 years. And this is just a new development in his day. It's not like he bursts on the scene. He's around. People get him. So, and I have heard reports from Fandango selling the tickets. This is their highest tracking thing of the year, which is good for me because it's my number 3 pick.
It's good for DC because I'd hate to see Gunn's good efforts just be pushed back and then it's like, oh, we're starting again. I'd hate that.
Yeah. How many times? So we are less than a month away from this film coming out. So I'm psyched. I'm actually not seeing it on the Thursday of this week because my wife and I are on vacation. Seeing it on the Friday if we get back in time. But unfortunately, I'll be in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, which is basically
Charlie's not a real fan, Luke. He can't put his vacation plans on hold for a geek movie.
I know it's the first time ever. But fortunately, like I said, I will exist in the Canadian black hole that is Michigan's Upper Peninsula. So nothing will spoil me as I drive down I-75 to get home. So
Luke, let's open up a group chat and just spoil it for Charlie.
No.
All right, so Charlie, here's what you need to know, man. Lex Luthor's up to no good.
Okay.
Superman's gonna win.
Okay.
And chances are you're gonna get an appearance of a character that's not yet been announced.
Oh, yes.
And Crypto cannot die. And that's what everybody's going to say.
You bet. Oh, okay. Summer Combat, Crypto versus Herbie. Crypto. I'm going to say Crypto, even though I'm a Marvel guy.
Crypto wins that. It's a dog.
Yeah, it's a dog. He wins our hearts, too. He's not Baby Groot. He's not Baby Yoda. He's a dog. Yeah, absolutely.
or an AI program, because, my heart fell in love with an AI program. Let's work with Star Wars, I guess, the robot.
Yeah, isn't that like I fell in love with a stripper? I fell in love with an AI program. Oh, okay, Todd. We've been talking about
soon.
We've been talking about this next one for a while now. And after seeing this trailer, I was like, oh, I was right about this all along. The Naked Gun. Talk about a weird reboot, continuation, something. The Naked Gun. It was late '80s, early '90s. The late Leslie Nielsen adapting a show that had failed in 5 or 6 episodes in the early '80s called Police Squad. Yeah, it turned into this movie. So now we got Liam Neeson as his son, which is very improbable because Liam Neeson is not a young guy. Kind of picking up the mantle with. I didn't realize Pamela Anderson was going to be the co-star until I saw some photos.
She's your Anna Nicole Smith, your whatever Priscilla Presley, the love interest.
Oh my gosh! So Todd, where do you stand with this trailer? It seems crazy to me.
I laughed so many times during this trailer. I think they nailed it. I think it's funny. It's Liam Neeson making poop jokes. I mean, I don't think there's anything better than that. It made me laugh. I'm just stupid jokes like take a chair and Pamela Anderson takes a chair and leaves. I mean, that's what we're talking about. That's what exactly this is. That's what Police Squad was. That's what this is. I don't know if this generation will be happy about it, but I'm all in.
That's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid this is, I mean, it didn't end up on any of our top 10 brackets.
No. Comedies that are goofy. I mean, what's the last big like goofy comedy except you got from like a Ben Stiller, like Something About Mary. I don't know. Luke, did this play for you at all or no?
Yeah, it looked fun. It looked funny, but it looks like it's in the vein of, respectfully, Spaceballs 2, Happy Gilmore 2, and any other number of, I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to watch it. I'm not going to set my watch by it.
Yeah.
That's not what it's for. And I honestly don't think that's what the original creators would want. Anyway, their movie was dumb fun in the beginning, and it needs to be dumb fun again. And it looks like everybody's got the right attitude about it. Like that trailer captures a wonderful spirit of the original. So cool. I'm in.
I don't know. I guess I'm judging from the point of view that I won't see it until it comes to streaming because April will not consent to go into this movie in the theaters. She hates
you can't movies by yourself.
Well, Todd, I know that's what you prefer, but no, I like to go to movies with her. So
I don't make anything stop me from seeing something I enjoy.
I don't. Yeah, I just don't know how much enjoyment there is in this for me. I think I'd rather go back and watch the other ones. I don't know. It looks a little too.
I don't know. I think those movies have poorly aged. If you get my drift, with Anna Nicole Smith, if I could put that there, especially remember that,
especially because she's dead. But
exactly.
Anyway, we get this one on August 1st, and the director is Akiva from The Lonely Island. So I've been hearing about this for months because I listened to that Lonely Island Seth Meyers podcast where they talk about their days on SNL, and I think it was filming in like Norway or something. Like it was like a weird overseas shoot. Yeah, I don't know because he would.
That's super cheap.
Yeah, that must be. Yeah. So we'll see that. We'll see that on August the 1st, and we'll see how that shakes out. All right. Well, that is it for the news. We are disengaging. Nobody's in the Geek Easy this time. We've all got to jump a plane, jump a train, jump on an Uber X. Here comes mine right now, sliding into that backseat, AM radio blaring very, very loudly, too loudly, but I am soothed by this ever familiar commercial.
Hey, Secret Friends Unite, let me tell you about Zencastr. We use them for our show, and now they're supporting us. Zencastr is now the all-in-one solution making podcasting easy. It's the ultimate web-based podcasting solution. Provides high-quality audio and video podcast production and hosting. With a full suite of professional tools, podcasters can seamlessly record, produce, and publish studio-quality content, all from one dashboard. Being a creator has never been easier. And we chose Zencastr because of the ease of use, high quality output, and it makes it super easy for our guests to come on. We had multiple solutions we tried before, and Zencastr has just been the best fit for us. Why Zencastr? It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sounds and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. Have you ever worried what you sound like? Zencastr's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with a click of a button. So if you're interested in making an easy, high-quality podcast just with the click of a browser button, go to Zencastr.com/pricing and use my code SFU1. You'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Now back to the show.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy, cover band's playing, drinks are poured, and we are ready to get our nerd on. Luke, I know you've been living high in the hog with video games and such, but have you been like watching or reading anything? I know it's been probably pretty rough to get there, but
in the geek world, not really. I mean, I watched Captain America on a plane, but like I'd already seen it.
It counts.
Yeah.
Okay, there you know. Not in the geek world. I'm reading a book that one of my students recommended called Stella by Starlight. There's nothing geeky about it. It's wonderful, though. I'm enjoying that.
Yeah.
And one of the cool things about this summer arriving, it's just a book that a teenager would read. But the summer provides, I now have time to play stuff that I'm not covering. So I'm jumping into my VR headset, checking stuff out. I've got my Kyle Rayner compendium that I'm anxious to dive into. I actually, you know what? I lied. I just read the Batman '89 comic book.
Oh, nice!
That's a good one. That's a good one. I've read it too.
Yeah, I just read that one and really enjoyed. I think it's the first 12 issues in it. That's whatever the graphic novel was.
You read more than me. I had a digital issue by issue subscription, which I kind of drifted. I tend to drift off, so I read maybe 5 of them. But this was 2 or 3 years ago when it was out.
It's
with Billy D. Williams as Two-Face, which is like amazing. Bringing all those really cool characters and that never got to show up in the Tim Burton verse.
Yeah, and I kid you not, and this is how I'll bridge the gap here. In reading that, all I can think is how desperately I hope we get this for the conclusion of Snyder's version of the DCU. Because what happened and I will staunchly say this when we talk about the film, Snyder made 3 movies and had influence on a 4th. And the rest of it is all just whatever DC made. And so I would like to see that story get a conclusion the way that this Batman '89 extends these characters, because that's fun, and the fan base of '89 deserved it. Yeah, to see Billy D. Williams do his thing, and to see kind of what happens with Catwoman, because she's still active, and that's fun. And so I hope through the world of comics we get that again for the previous DCU.
Yeah.
Luke, I'm going to recommend a book. Charlie and I talked to this author, John Jackson Miller. It's basically the official sequel between Batman and Batman Returns. DC made it. It's very cool. I met the guy. He's great.
Who's the villain?
And the villain, I'll let you find that out. It's kind of interesting.
Luke, he's saying that because he didn't read it.
Oh. No, I don't want to give away.
I've always wanted to see an '89 Batman Scarecrow, because I think that would be really interesting, and an '89 Batman Riddler, because it would borderline into the psychotic kind of Matt Reeves style. Yeah, because you're dealing with that darker one. Yeah. And but we were so appropriately followed with the comedic Carey version. Oh my God. Like I want to see that '89 variant. So
and a different version than the Batman version of Riddler too, where it was like, could we come up with something else? And Luke, I was going to ask this. I mean, this pertains to Charlie too, with Star Trek. There's a Star Trek Bridge Commander game on VR, which you could definitely get into if you have any curiosity with that. And there's also some other things in Star Trek in regards to the gaming verse, because they have the Star Trek Online. Is that any stuff ever interested you at all?
It's always so for Star Trek Online, always, because it continued TNG's storyline.
Me too.
But there's an amount of time to go into an
my co-host Peter, if you ever listen to the show, he's always been very active in that, and I just can't land on it. I just the gaming stuff, nothing ever really hooks me. But they've done a lot of really great stuff. And when Eagle Moss, which was a company that was making little ships that went bankrupt a few years ago, they had a whole line of ships that came from Star Trek Online. So massively popular in that regard. So yeah.
I was always interested in that Star Trek Telltale-like game with basically. I really wanted. I think I own it, or maybe I don't, and I really wanted to. But that seemed like a very interesting game, because Telltale seems to really fit Star Trek's focus on story. Charlie, like the Walking Dead game, same thing there with Star Trek. It's story and consequences and choices versus like shoot, bang, bang.
Right. And I just, like I said, with anything Star Trek, when it comes to that, I would just love to see them move into, frankly, better Star Trek than TOS, which is where they always seem to go back to. DS, like something like that on DS9, you know what I mean? Or something that puts together all that legacy universe of TNG, Voyager, DS9, those characters, put them in an adventure together. I mean, people have been clamoring for a show like that for the last few years, but anyway.
Well, if we get our Voyager Elite Force excellent remake and remaster on modern consoles, I'll be all in, because that's one of my favorite Star Trek games of all time.
Elite Force was good.
For your least favorite Star Trek show.
That's so ironic, isn't it? Yeah, that we got that awesome. And The Rock has to show up with in that as well.
Is it really your least favorite next to Discovery?
Well, I haven't watched much of Enterprise, but I lived through most of Voyager, and I just struggled with Voyager so much. It was on in college with me and Charlie. I watched it, and I'm like, I disliked most of those characters on Voyager. Cass, Neelix, I mean, yeah. And until they brought in 7 of 9, I mean, if you think about it, Harry Kim, Tom Paris, there weren't a lot of great characters on that show. So that's where I was like, yeah.
Luke, we could have some very long conversations, you, me, and Peter, about not liking Discovery because it doesn't sound like you were on board.
No.
Yeah.
No, I liked Discovery, what it did. Yeah, I struggled with a lot of the characters in that series, and I struggled with a lot of their focus. It just became a lot of a emotion cry fest for me, which is like, okay. Yeah.
Knock it off. Also, the Spore Drive is stupid.
Oh, it's
that's why we don't talk about it anymore, right? It's never coming back, so you got one and done.
Luke, we'll talk off book, but we got to get you back over on code. Yeah, but anyway, Todd, what do you got?
This is a fun little series. It's on Prime. Charlie and I'm always forgetting the name of the production company. It's Nacelle, right?
Yeah, Brian Volk-Weiss, who is
so they do a ton of these things. I didn't expect this one. It's called Up for Auction. This is very cool if you're into the Disney verse of things. This is all about this guy who has acquired all of these Disney focused memorabilia. We're talking about the Dumbo car from the Dumbo ride at Disneyland. We're talking about how do you get this stuff? We're talking about cast member costumes for Disney. We're talking about all of these things, set pieces from the Haunted Mansion. I mean, like I said, how do you get this stuff?
I have 2 options for you without watching the show: dumpster diving or some kind of industrial espionage.
I think that's what it is, Charlie. Yeah. But it's really cool because Chris Hardwick hosts this. He's a big Disney fan of, him from a lot of the shows he used to do at midnight and Singled Out. But yeah, it's really great. It's all about getting this auction together, about this couple that runs this auction house where they renovate a Bed Bath & Beyond in Hollywood, where they basically turn into this amazing showcase for all this Disney memorabilia. It's amazing. And we get to have Imagineers show up that talk about the pieces and give you the background. Even some of the pieces you can own, like Chris Hardwick, we find out he actually owns one of the original Haunted Mansion portraits that expand. If you've ever seen that before, where it's showing it's a normal portrait, but then it expands to oh wait, that maiden's going to be eaten by alligators, and he had one framed, which is very expensive. So it's very cool. So you get to see this team put this thing together. You get all of the interesting elements of how they got these pieces from Disney, and they have a goal of what they have to hit, and they do. And Chris gives you a lot of his background on why he's such a big Disney fan. Highly, I just hung out with my buddy Steve Browski, who is just retired, and he's a Disney file, and he has a lot of stuff. And I told him about this, and this is just up his alley because there are so many Disney adults that want to own a part of their nostalgia and actually the parks. So if you're interested, Up for Auction. It's half-hour episodes, 8 episodes, very fun. It's on Disney Prime or Amazon Prime.
Yeah,
loved it. Check it out. I love these type of shows.
I love Brian and his company do a lot of great work. I watched the entirety of that Marvel show that you had talked about.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah. So Brian's a very interesting guy. I talked to him a little bit on Instagram Messenger here and there. I think we might get him back for another interview at some point to talk more about what he does, and I'll get Todd. We'll get you involved in that. So
and Luke, he does actually a lot of video game documentaries as well. There's one that he does that's really cool because it's taking one episode for each sort of different franchise. So it's all about the history of Call of Duty, and talks about how it changed, how it Call of Duty came from at that point, what was it? Allied Assault, Medal of Honor, and how it changed. And it's really great. So there's a lot of these awesome documentaries that I just think are under the radar of a lot of people, especially if you like video games. Back in the day, it was G4 icons, which is the big thing. But those things are in 4DP. They don't look very good, and they've been dated. So check out these really cool documentaries about all this geek culture. Very cool.
Good deal. Well, I got a couple of quick ones. This movie was re-released. It's an iconic film that everyone in the world loves. But I was trying to figure out. It was staring me right in the face why it came out this weekend. But there was an anniversary showing of 3 dates: Saturday, Sunday, and then this upcoming Wednesday, Tuesday. After you listen to this, so you can still go see it, of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And I'm thinking, this is the 36th anniversary of this movie. It was for Father's Day because it's a father and son story. It didn't click with me. But we went and saw it last night. Obviously, I've seen the movie a million times. Everybody's seen the movie a million times. But this was the second time as an adult I've gotten to see an Indiana Jones heritage film on the big screen as an adult, because there was a 35th anniversary showing of Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is my favorite film, here in Grand Rapids maybe a decade ago. And it's funny, all the little things that you pick up. Now, this is shown by Fathom Entertainment. It's not a remastered print. It's not really cleaned up. So I'm like, it looks a little grainy here and there. But it doesn't.
They didn't borrow a copy of a 4K Blu-ray, Charlie?
They could have. I think it might have had better results. But yeah, it's an iconic film, and it's really proof that they just don't make them like that anymore. You know, the dialogue and the beats and the emotion and the Sean Connery.
No CGI.
No CGI. Yeah, just very bad. You know, watching Indy walk across the invisible bridge was very bad, or watching the airplanes fly around in the sky in that sequence. April was just rolling laughing at the scene where Sean Connery whips the turret around and blows their tail off. She's just howling. I'm sorry, son, they got us. Just absolutely iconic stuff. So that was
Charlie,
really fun.
Don't ask Luke his opinion on Indiana Jones. It'll make you cry.
Oh no. Okay. He's smiling. He must be muted. He's like, I'm gonna turn my mute off.
He's muted, and he's muted because he's like,
he's muted on purpose. Not a fan.
I don't get it. I like the first 3 movies. I just don't get why everyone loves this franchise still, because like the first 3 are very good. Last Crusade.
I was going to say, Luke, people don't still love this franchise because they had massively the last film came out 2 years ago and was tanked the box office for the summer for me, because I lost bigly in our competition, because my heart said everybody still loves Indiana Jones. This will be $1 billion movie, and it was not. So
in the gaming community is like, indie, because there's this great Indiana Jones video game.
Great Indiana Jones game. Yeah,
I'm sure it's great, and I've never once dissed the game, but like, he's a completely unrelatable character to modern audiences, and that's
why the movie failed.
What are you talking about? He's a gruff dude from 1932 or whatever he was from, Charlie.
In the last movie, it was 1969, so he was 70. He was 70, and then they spent the first, 30 minutes of the movie with him as de-aged, which looked weird. I don't know. We don't need to talk about that. Yeah. But anyway, Luke, I'm going to throw the gauntlet down. Strange New Worlds. I know you're not caught up, or you weren't the last time we talked about it. Mm-hmm. I, like other people in the media, about a month ago, received an advanced screener with the first 5 of the 10 episodes for season 3. Cool. Oh my God. Every episode is something. It's great how a show can be episodic and not like stuck in the drudgery. Like Todd and I did a one-off talking about an episode of Discovery that we plucked at random, and we were lost. We were absolutely, because it doesn't. You can't watch it as a single episode. Every episode is a little movie. It's a little movie with some have fun stories, some have serious stories. Like the first episode is obviously a cliffhanger that revolves the second season, which is very serious. But then you get into some just absolutely knockdown, exciting stuff. It does move forward central themes about relationships between the various characters, and it spawned us going back to talk about the first 2 seasons. Todd's joining us later this week on Code 47. We're going to break down in a looser sense seasons 1 and 2 and kind of talk about season 3. There was big news. This was something I didn't work into our news, that we know they're producing season 4 right now. Mystifyingly, in 2 parts, they're giving us the season 5, but they're reducing the order by 4 episodes. We're getting a 6-episode final season, which just, it seems weird. It's like, why not 5? Why not 10? Why not at all? But ultimately, with a show that's this good, just take what you can get and hope that
make them good.
Yeah, hopefully that Starfleet Academy, which they are wrapped on and now getting into season 2, is also good. And reverse, even though it's set in the same time period as Discovery, that it improves on that show. Yeah, I know. I saw Luke giving me a little Elvis sneer right there. He was like,
You don't like, have you watched any, Luke, of Strange New Worlds?
Oh, I like Strange New Worlds. The premise of it is very strange, given that you know what's going to happen with Anson Mount's character.
Yeah, it's true.
That's an odd way to go. Plus, you run the risk. Here's the real problem with Strange New Worlds: is you run the risk of making their adventure so epically great that Kirk's crew can't do better, and that's a very strange thing.
Now that is something. Now this is something we did at the end of season 2 of Strange New Worlds. We had Todd on, and it was with myself and another co-host we had at the time. We did fan castings to round out the TOS cast because we have more than half the cast now as part of a Strange New Worlds. And then we said, well, if they did a soft reboot of TOS and did some adventures within that time frame, what would be like a great episode to remake? So it's like we had some fun with it. That's my dream, because Star Trek is just at this place that they've integrated the look of it so much. And it started with Enterprise. And, and it's funny, Enterprise gave some touches to the old show by integrating the mirror universe and the classic sets. But we're just so far past that now with Discovery and other things that have been done within that same space that TOS needs an actual updating just to make it look like the movies from the 80s.
Anybody who cared about TOS is dead, sorry, or has Alzheimer's and forgot TOS.
It's rapidly encroaching. Like my parents and my uncle, who's a big Michael Tim, who's a big fan.
My dad was a big father, and he's passed away since 2007. I mean, that's why I'm fine with them rebooting TOS and starting with a stronger foundation for new fans. For like me, I don't want to watch the old TOS shows. It was fine when I was 10, whatever, watching reruns with my dad. I want new stories with the new cast, and that's fine with me.
I will, and to cap it, to agree with Luke, to show that I'm not just a starry-eyed fanboy, I don't love in Strange New Worlds what they're doing with Spock. That's my biggest complaint. The Spock and Chapel relationship, again, the problem is, it's what Todd just said, it throws out of whack everything from the original series because it just doesn't make sense. That I'm not crazy. As a canonista, I'm not crazy. I like it,
but I don't care about whatever happened to Leonard Nimoy. But that's okay.
I gotcha.
He's dead. He doesn't care either.
Oh, easy now.
He was in the Kelvin timeline. That's where he died.
Yeah, don't forget.
That's true.
Don't forget, we had Leonard Nimoy's son on this show, and he was a very nice man. So be kind. All right. Well, that wraps us up out of the Geek Easy. I have my phone out with my Air Qantas app. It's time to get down to the land down under. Hologram Tina and the mutants await us to finish the Summer of Superman with Batman vs. Superman, the Ultimate Edition. Let's go.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome.
Thank you, Tina. The mutants have been gathered for a topic or a game to be entertained. And this week, we're wrapping up the Summer of Superman with Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition. So just to let you know, there was the original edition. And then I believe a couple years later, Zack Snyder was allowed to add in all of the cuts that he thought was sufficient to make it more of a comprehensible movie in a Blu-ray edition, which now is available on HBO Max, which is great. So it added an additional 33 minutes of content. So that is what we're going to be talking about. It's available if you want to watch it on streaming, or if you own a copy with that. But the premise is, it's been nearly 2 years since Superman's colossal battle with Zod devastated the city of Metropolis. The loss of life and collateral damage left many feeling angry and helpless, including crime-fighting billionaire Bruce Wayne. Convinced that Superman is now a threat to humanity, Batman embarks on a personal vendetta to end his reign on Earth, while the conniving Lex Luthor launches his own crusade against the Man of Steel. This is directed by Zack Snyder, written by Chris Terrio and David S. Goyer, produced by Charles Roven and Deborah Snyder. Deborah Snyder and Zack have been production partners for a long time. Great, couple doing their thing. Basically, this movie released March 19th at a first event, I assume, in South America in March 19th, 2016. Broad release March 25th, 2016, 152 minutes. That's the original cut. If you add in the extra 33 minutes, we're at basically 185. 3
hours and like 5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. The original release, 250 $50 to $325 million budget. I assume you added an extra 125 for the budget, so about 400 million. Box office of 874 million. Very successful movie. This included Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne, Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. Lawrence Fishburne really got a broader appearance as Perry White. Jeremy Irons was a new Alfred, which is kind of cool.
A good one.
Yeah. Holly Hunter as Senator Finch. Gal Gadot, obviously, no spoilers here because the movie's been out, as Diana Prince. Scoot McNairy, which is Wallace Keefe, which don't know his character. I believe that was Jimmy Olsen.
No. That was the guy who lost his legs.
Oh, that's right. Okay, he was the vet. Then we had Callan McKelvey, who I believe was the KG
Beast.
KG Beast. Which I didn't realize at the time.
We knew him from Winter Soldier. He was one of the strike commando guys.
So KG Beast is an old heritage DC character. Tao Akamoto is Mercy Graves. Mercy is a big part of Lex's cohort. Does a lot of the dirty work.
Not for long in this movie.
And then we were introduced to Martha and Thomas Wayne with Lauren Cohen, and we also got our favorite killer, blanking on his name.
Negan.
Charlie.
You're talking about Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
They played a couple because they now star in a show together. The Walking Dead City. Yeah. They're two characters.
So there we go. That's the primary additions to the characters. Obviously, we have some spoilers with other characters that are added in later. And just to give some context, I in the Metacritic and the Rotten Tomatoes, the Metacritic was 44, audience 6.9, and Tomato Meter was 28% and 63%.
I was going to consider that because $875 million.
Say that.
$875 million.
I am
the tail of the tape would be, Luke, this would have a huge opening and a meteoric crash on the second weekend. 82% drop, the biggest in DC history. So that would be, but it was this, but I would say this film was significantly bigger overseas than the US. It carried, the weight it carried was probably like 60 to 70% overseas. So there we go. So we don't want to get into that. We don't want to base a box office on the actual, how we felt about this film. So with that, I'm going to relinquish this to Luke and Charlie. So at this point, Luke, you are a huge fan of the Snyderverse audience, as well as our heritage partner, Bobby Pauls. Rest in power, Bobby. You were a huge fan of the series. I believe we might even reviewed this movie with Bobby back in the day. I'm guessing we would have in 2016 because we've been around for like 2 years. So so I thought it was really important to have someone else who also loved this franchise under Zack Snyder to join us. So going with that, we are not here to trash the film. We are here to just to reevaluate it, where it stands, and give our pros and cons. So that's kind of what I did. I added some notes for myself, but I wanted to hear it from both Charlie and Luke from the sequences of this movie, where it landed, and then we'll go and give our pros and cons. So, Charlie, Luke, who wants to take this over? Take it over.
You got it. Do it.
I would like to begin.
Yes.
We'll begin with part 4. All right. So, the interesting thing to me about the extended edition is it really does include a number of scenes that weren't in the theatrical cut that give a massive amount of context to anyone that chose to pay attention. But if you weren't paying attention, you sure didn't get it. And that is the unique tale of the tape for this movie for me. It's that there is so much story here that is built to be told later. And that is one of the more fascinating things. I feel like if history could, the timelines were a bit different and Snyder hadn't lost his daughter and such, and they had gotten to his version, this movie might be looked upon with more reverence than it currently is, because it did a great job, I thought, at introducing Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. Absolutely wonderful variant and version of Diana Prince. Not only beautiful, but intelligent, witty, which went on to be showcased again in Wonder Woman, not 84, but in Wonder Woman.
Not 84.
No.
Interestingly, also.
Wait, there was another Wonder Woman film?
Nope. There are no more Highlander films. You got it.
Interestingly, Snyder was working very closely with the production of the first Wonder Woman movie, not the second, which I think is fascinating as well because
it went off a cliff.
Yeah, big time. And many people that are fans like myself of Man of Steel, DC, BVS, or Snyder's Justice League, they tend to make the argument about Snyder, which is an argument to be made, but not how I like to look at it. I see Snyder's version of the DCU as 4 movies long, to include Wonder Woman and his 3. And it's telling a Superman tale, but the majority of BVS is more of a Batman movie and a setup movie as opposed to a Superman film, which is the premise of our discussion, which I think is interesting. And I know you guys just watched Man of Steel, but when you watch Man of Steel, what I loved about that version of Superman is he was finding his feet and such. And this might seem so silly, but if you look at his hair, it's wavy and it moves about and it's a bit boyish in Man of Steel. But in BVS, it's like gel layered down. It's plastered onto his head. And that's very much, I feel, indicative of him trying to be something he is not. Which is part of the Superman arc for Snyder's version. Snyder's characters are about gods in a mortal world being asked to do godlike things, which is very different. I'm excited for this reason because that's not what we're looking to see from Gunn's version. Yeah. But in BVS, the movie is largely a Batman tale, and it's Bruce Wayne coming to grips with what it means to be this hero of 20 plus years, where he has done amazing things as a man, dressed as a suit and an icon and a vision and a symbol. And then in one day, and you see this in the opening of the film, in one day, his sheer mortality makes him so small, even in the way that it's shot, because as he moves through Metropolis while Zod and Superman are fighting, and it's very cool shot for shot background, the laser beams are dropping and the Kryptonian ships flying overhead, it makes Bruce Wayne and Batman look very small in the opening of the film, which if you're Batman is a very new feeling. Yeah. And I feel like what that did, and I promise I'll stop in just a moment, what that did is set the stage for this entire Batman v Superman element, which was largely influenced by Luthor if you look into the story. But it made Bruce Wayne feel so small next to a being of such power that didn't even want that power, but yet he was there. And suddenly his entire crusade, and Alfred makes a comment, one misses the days of exploding penguins. Everything that they had done, that Alfred and that Bruce had done, losing Jason Todd to become the Joker, oddly enough, losing their Bat family in such a way, Wayne Manor being destroyed and them staying at that lake house, mattered not, because now a god is on their world. And gods can fight and decimate thousands. And now the people of Metropolis are worshiping this guy. The insult to injury there really set a stage for Bruce to be angry. And it was not a new take, which a lot of people were surprised about. Bruce being angry is in almost every Batman version. Sure. But it was the first time we saw him in live action film hate and kill with such violence, because Batman has killed plenty of times before, but he did so with such violence here that it was very fascinating. I think it was hard for comic book fans to digest, but the pickups, I will stop, I promise. The pickups from Dark Knight Returns were fantastically well done. But I think it's more of a Batman movie than a Superman movie for the majority of it. What was your take, Charlie?
Well, you're right. There are a lot of components of it that if you were not dialed in and looking closely, you're like, why is, like I even remember hearing some guys in radio that I worked with at the time saying, well, Batman's just a murderer in this, or the Weekly Planet guys talking about how Batman is a murderer. I mean, look at Batman in the Tim Burton films. He kicked the guy down the manhole that the guy blew up. It's just
implied death, right?
Yeah, it's
implied death. It's broken bones, may lead to death.
Yeah, it's not as in your face when he flips the guy upside down and shatters his spinal cord. It's very much like a video game. So it's taking what we saw in the Nolan films, where these are the best Batman films ever made. And it's a very cohesive story, yada yada yada, and just taking it to a different level. But there are a lot of people, I think, that absolutely argue that Affleck gives us the best Bruce Wayne that we've ever seen. Maybe not the Batman, but Bruce Wayne is a broken, destroyed by life. Everything always gone. Everyone he's ever loved has died. And as you said, with the Jason Todd, with the death and the rebirth, his greatest villain, and his ancestral home was destroyed, and they're standing in the ruins of it, and he's standing over the family crest and talking about how his family were French fur traders and hunters, and and just here's a guy who's just lost everything in life, and now he is looking at what could be the end of life on Earth, and his unique responsibility to do anything that he can, even if there's just 1% that is,
which is illogical to say the least. And Alfred has a good line. He is not your enemy, and I thought that was so telling, and it was fascinating also to watch, because it's so out of context and doesn't make sense if you don't watch the next film and know where they were going. But the nightmare dreams that he was having were influencing his decision. And then you have Lex sending him things, and Lex knows who he is, and Lex knows who Superman is, and is piecing them against each other with little tidbits.
Yeah.
And it's so out of context, the nightmare stuff especially, but that is why he is so illogical in his pursuit of Superman. It really is hard to digest for an audience that's not breaking frame by frame.
Yeah, the question is this a game of chess when everyone else is playing checkers? You know what I mean? Is it too high above the concept of like a superhero movie that's really what threw people? Because like you said, $874 million, but as Todd said, that was all front-ended, immediately front-ended, with the exception of overseas. We're not thinking about that. And then it just plummeted because did people just say, oh, I don't like this. I don't need to see my Superman beating the crap out of Batman, and I don't need to see Batman snapping guys in half. And was it just too much? I'll tell you, the one part of this that I couldn't stand without measure was Jesse Eisenberg. He creeps me out sideways. I don't like anything he says. I don't like any of his dialogue. Ooh, the red capes are coming. Ooh, I wouldn't want to get into a fight with this person. It's like he's the Riddler, but not one that I can enjoy. He was, for me, it was the biggest con for me, the thing that kind of yanked me out. And then the line about the Marthas, I mean, that got laughs in the theater. I'm sorry. There were people who just thought, why did you say that name? That it was just, well, I got it. And that was the bridge that we finally needed to bring these two characters together. It was said in a way that I think in a lot of ways was kind of silly, but yes, on Gal Gadot, without a doubt, incredible performance. The Batman scene, while kind of wildly violent, was also wildly entertaining because it was so much action. And that was pretty incredible. So Todd, you just finished pouring your drink, so now it's your turn. I mean, I think I wish we could separate the fact of Zack Snyder. Unfortunately, I feel like he was given a memorandum to say, we need a Justice League and you need to accelerate your plan.
Yeah. He was. That is
the Avengers. Right. So I feel like I wish I would have gotten Zack Snyder without a rush. Because I feel like there are things I really enjoyed with Man of Steel that I would have felt like, wow, what's next for Batman? What's next for the next characters, without having to feel like they have to shoulder more connected universe. So I feel like that is something that it's like, and that's what you have to take with these movies, because it feels like that's not, we got an opportunity. Zach dealt with what he had to deal with to move this forward to get to an Avengers in a very different way than Avengers. To get to an Avengers level with the Justice League without less time, without less, care. And quite honestly, at the point, Marvel got to do whatever they wanted because they didn't have to care because they weren't owned by Disney yet. So, but with being owned by Warner Brothers and the dysfunction that is Warner Brothers and now Discovery. And like, I don't know how you get anything made that's even works. And the way DC was made at the time was like everybody was doing their own thing with directors, and there was no coherence, and there was no Kevin Feige. And they said, Zach, can you help us? Because you've made 300, you've made Watchmen, you've done other things that you know how to bring things together. So I don't like what they were. I talked about Man of Steel was my second favorite Superman film.
Yeah.
The problem with this is, and I can only judge this film from what it is, and I felt like this film was obviously overstuffed. It was trying to do so much, and obviously it was a 2 hour and 20-minute film, that it was a 3-hour film later on, and unfortunately didn't solve the problem that was trying to basically introduce Lex Luthor, introduce Bruce Wayne for the first time, this version, which we hadn't seen before, and giving him a lot of baggage, which we didn't actually get to experience or understand his pain. It was just done in passing, which is a shame. I wish we'd have gotten a Batman standalone film where we saw Bruce have to go through his relationship with Robin and how they had good times and how they were a family with Alfred and dealt that. And then they had to deal with the pain of, oh my God, I remember that comic where Joker killed, or he would either save or kill Robin. Right. And yet the people called in and said, let's kill Robin because we hate Jason Todd. So I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. And I just felt like it was just a shame that we didn't get any of the, what did Bruce feel? Because we have not seen really, unless you go back to the horrible, Joel Schumacher films with Robin. And we haven't gotten a really good take with Batman and Robin having a relationship, basically recapturing to be a parental figure, raise someone up, and then have something horrible happen to them. So that was my biggest problem, was we didn't get to see why Batman turned into the hopeless person who ended up branding villains and went that route. So that was a challenge to me.
You do get really, really subtle clues for anyone that pays attention. Again, that's the problem with this movie, is there's so much in there, but it's all subtle.
There's so much in there.
Yeah.
When Bruce and Diana first talk to one another at the sword of the Sultan of Qajar, the sword that's actually a fake, and then really it's above the Sultan of Qajar's bedding. Yeah. When they're talking, Bruce says, like, I bet 9 out of 10 guys would fall for that babe act or whatnot. And she goes, oh, and you're the 10th or whatever. He goes, no, I'm the first. I've been fooled or I've known women like you before. And he says something. He's clearly alluding to Catwoman here. In his larger universe, this beautiful woman who knows about stolen goods.
Well, if you go back, maybe Vicky Vale. Right. I don't know. No, sorry,
his own Vicky Vale.
His history.
And then you look at like when they're in the Batcave and you see Robin's suit. Jokes on you. Ha ha ha. Jokes on you.
Yeah.
Like, you do see all of these subtle things. And you also notice that Bruce is drinking nonstop. Alfred is drinking nonstop. They're both brilliant, able to work. Bruce is this monster of a Batman. Like, his Batman is huge. And again, I think that points to the feeling of mortality and inferiority next to Superman.
Right.
And that's why he's pushed so hard. But and
you put that together, Luke, and I think people thought, why is he working on Sword? So he can wear the suit. It's not because he's like, I'm going to get ripped because I'm going to take out Superman. No, I have to basically be able to carry that maybe 120-pound suit.
Right.
Because that's what matters.
That's why he's lifting the garbage can. It's funny. We were talking earlier in the show about how, fans are smart now. They know where Batman came from. They know where Spider-Man came from. They know this, they know that. So contrary to that thought process that we had, all the subtleties on an audience that's like, don't spoon feed it to me, I can pull it for myself, could have absolutely worked based on what you were talking about. But for some reason, it didn't click. I'll
tell you why.
Please do.
If this had been an HBO Max series, specifically starting with BVS, because this movie is, if you'd broken into 40 to 50-minute chunks, and every week people had their write-ups and they talked like, wait, is this character this person? Because in our extended version, you had the character on horseback that's flicking off the drone. That's Talon. Well, Talon's a character that's very comic specific and well known. No audience know that. But if you're reading it every week on comicbook.com and seeing the breakdown, makes a difference. Jimmy Olsen shows up in the extended edition. I don't think he's in the theatrical one, or at least not as prominently.
I thought he was, but it wasn't really. It was just very short, and it's like that's it. And I'm like, okay. Yeah.
And everything about the plot with the bullet and how it was a LexCorp bullet, it was unique being put in here. That would be better understood if you had it in a digestible, like 40 to 50 minute time where people are breaking it down, because that entire like segment scene was expanded with the Talon segment with Jimmy Olsen, and then the character that does the analysis for Lois, the blonde girl with the glasses.
Oh yeah, Jenna Malone. Jenna Malone is the actress's name. Yeah.
Yes, that is that character. And look this up because I know I'm right on this one. Is the Dark Knight Returns Robin?
Oh, what's her face? Yeah. Okay. I can't remember that.
Carrie Kelly. Was it Carrie Kelly?
I'm very sure that's her name in the film, but her scene was cut from the theatrical. Okay. That is Robin for later.
Okay.
All the more fascinating. Well worth your time. I see you Googling. I love it.
Right.
Look it up.
It's in there.
Yeah. It's just that there were too many fingers and too many fingers and too many pies, too many things being juggled. That if the juggling didn't keep going, there's a great B villain in Marvel called the Oddball Gang, where they're jugglers. It was Captain America and Hawkeye had to fight them.
That is not B. That is C or D.
Ouch! Yeah, no, that's like F.
That's like F. Exactly. Charlie's right.
Their whole bit was juggling. That one would be throwing a cleaver, one would be throwing an axe, one would be throwing an acid-filled 8-ball. You know what I mean? So, but they all had to keep it moving. Otherwise, you get hit in the face with a cleaver. You know what I mean? And that's, to extend the analogy, I think that's kind of what happened here. You had too much that you wanted to predicate. Then you had Big Brother get involved. And so when I saw this on an analysis video I was watching earlier today, when the money men get involved in the space where artists play, you're screwed. Because they're like, how can we take this thing to make it more money? And that's where things went off a cliff with this, because they tried to do in half the time what Marvel did in a movie that was twice as long, or at least that's the way it felt. And it just they just couldn't bring it all together.
Agreed, but so like when you look up Jenna Malone's character and her name, and you probably found it, Todd, Janet Clyburn.
It's very hard to find the Ultimate Edition casting, which is once again tells me that it's very frustrating.
She portrayed Janet Clyburn, and visually is a almost a live action version of that Robin, and it's kind of like saying that MJ in Spider-Man is Mary Jane, right? Like,
in the in the Tom Holland movies, which she's not. Her name is Mary Jones. She has a different character altogether.
No, she actually, Charlie, we found that actually she is Mary Jane, and it was determined, and it was just a bad fit. We did figure this out. It's a bad fit. It's dumb.
It's a very bad fit. It's a very bad fit.
Yeah. When you go in and you watch Ultimate Edition and you see these little things and you're like little Easter eggs, it doesn't make sense or add up until you stop and go back. And that's the problem with the nightmare sequences as well, because they're so out of left field in the movie. And it's Batman, his dreams, right? But it is setting up this much greater arc. We don't even know who Darkseid is. This is a Thanos level input without showing Thanos. And that's the problem. Right. And that is the problem with it. But what I loved, right after right around the courtroom scene, right? This is where Superman flies down and he's going to be put essentially on trial because, and it's really neat to see how they use all the CNN pundits and stuff like talking about like, must there be a Superman?
Even Jon Stewart was in there, which is funny.
Yeah. Jon Stewart was doing it.
And, what was the crazy Nancy Grace? The crazy court lady was in there too.
Yeah.
Neil deGrasse Tyson talking, and it was exactly what you would expect from real world people trying to deal with this god, right?
Right.
And he himself is a farm boy trying to manage it. And so what was interesting is in that scene where Jesse Eisenberg's Luthor knows who he knows who both of them are. I mean, it's like he knows, and he's pitting them against each other, but especially by sending Bruce letters and stuff. But Superman's in the courtroom and can't see the bomb because it's lined with lead. But he goes to Lois after, by the way, in the extended edition, they show him helping the civilians more often, which is great. He goes to Lois and is like, I'm worried I didn't see it because I wasn't looking. And again, not sure if he's supposed to be asking for help from people, if he's not. And all the while, Lois is trying to figure this bullet thing out with, and even talking to General Swanwick, which is Martian Manhunter, which you don't find out till later.
Again, that's exactly the problem. Exactly the problem.
But we've touched on that problem, but it is interesting to watch in hindsight because you can see Swanwick helping Lois quietly, and then you get to the final third of the film, which is not how it was supposed to be. I'm not sure how familiar you guys are. That's not Doomsday was not supposed to be the Doomsday the way it was. But it is interesting to see that Luthor had to penetrate the Kryptonian craft, take it over, use a regeneration chamber, and there's a really cool line, again, too small for people to notice, where it's you don't do the Kryptonian ships don't do this, never again are we supposed to have an abomination of sacred memories and stuff, and or something like that. And essentially saying this is the reason why this creature is going to hate Superman, because it was Zod, and Zod's last moments were being angry at Kal.
Right.
And okay, so that makes sense, but you didn't explain it to audiences very well.
Right. You're right. So it's the opposite of what works well for Marvel. It was the bizarro world. This was the bizarro world.
I have to push back a little bit. I feel like there's so many leaps of faith, Luke, with all of this that I feel like
it's too much.
An audience can't get to this unless you are totally dissecting it. And I feel like that is essentially a fault of a storyteller, a filmmaker that, I get it. He was given an impossible task, but ultimately, as a good filmmaker, you have to deliver a story that makes sense in a time you deliver it. And we've seen Zack Snyder. Every one of his movies has to have a director's cut, but this is even with a Netflix series, which I feel like maybe film isn't his best format. And to your point, it should be a miniseries where he has sufficient time to tell a story with more time. But in a 2-hour, 30-minute, if you can't tell it and you have to have an additional, I know exactly. That's what I'm saying. So it's ultimately Zack Snyder's then proven then to say maybe he's not the guy to make films. He's a great guy to make a story over time because he can tell a story. So that's where I struggled, because even myself, in knowing lore and things like that, I'm this movie is still struggling to find a way amongst the weight of what it wants to do. And I wish I would have gotten Zack Snyder to give us a purely Batman and Superman film that was not related to Doomsday, the death of Superman, Wonder Woman, all these extra pieces, which I felt just at that point, I'm I don't know who could make a film make sense, deliver, and actually make you feel excited for the next chapter versus feeling wow, that's very heavy.
No, I agree, but we have that. I guess the kicker is we keep saying that's the problem. We know that's the problem, but we're not. I thought if we're dissecting the movie, because I agree. You even look at Snyder's cut; he does part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Yeah, that's what should have happened here. That should have happened here.
Yeah, but exactly. So we can only take the movie for what it is, though. And that's where I think it's struggling. I'll just go to my pros. My pros are great cast and performances despite the material, excluding Lex. Great Batman scene saving Martha. Wonder Woman's appearance and theme was amazing, and some very good visuals and fight sequences. My cons are it's overstuffed. We had to add an additional 33 minutes to potentially add some coherence. Pacing was still slow with the Ultimate Edition.
I struggle with that too.
Forced JLA rather than truly established Batman-Superman relationship. Lex Luthor, God Almighty, he feels like Musk now versus, we thought was going to be, our guy. His plot was so overly complicated and relied on so much coincidence. Sending things to Superman, doing things, and getting this just didn't make sense. Batman, easily misled and acted foolishly. Martha was a safe word, apparently. Didn't really get a great new perspective on Batman. Lost opportunity to explore his relationship with Robin and how the Joker pushed him too far. Doomsday and the Death of Superman, such an epic comic storyline that was wasted here. Meaning that original comic storyline was essentially told over so many things. We were introduced to the character the last 15 minutes of this film, and to even give us a context of why Doomsday matters kind of was lost on me. So me being a heritage Superman fan and owning those comics and things like that, I'm we added it because it felt like Zack Snyder was aware of the character and there was no resonance, and everything with Jesse Eisenberg showing up in the bath just took me wrong in a wrong way, and I just didn't get it. So that's my take on this, and it's like that's how I viewed this movie again after all these years. The Ultimate Edition, which is supposed to make this film better, and for me, I'm like, I don't think it's a good film. And I feel like so many wasted opportunities, but some good performances that I feel like I wish the characters would have gotten a better shake.
I agree with a lot of what you said, and I do think it's interesting. Also, if you like go back and you like, Doomsday was not supposed to be the final battle. That was a studio request for later on.
That's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, but I feel like we have to mention in the last third, you see some of the best superhero action scenes that you've seen it anywhere. And I thought that was one of his or one of the strengths of this movie is that you see Superman's power level on display in a really cool way, because like he takes Doomsday up into the sky. They get hit with the nuke. You kind of get that cool Bizarro-esque shot, which I thought was
I like that. I like that.
Kind of reminds me of Dark Knight Returns. If you read the novel, where it's Superman is in the same state, and he actually absorbs the power of the sun from a flower because he's at that point. He gets nuked as well in that, and he basically looks like a zombie, and he comes back. So Zack Snyder obviously took pieces of Dark Knight Returns, because that's when he showed the original footage. That's what he was trying to ape was. Yeah. And I kind of wish it had only been that with Superman and Batman versus everything thrown back in. And I wish it would have been, they would have accomplished what they did without having Superman have to die. That was kind of my feel.
I thought one of the really neat things also was when Wonder Woman drops down to stop the beams. You see a very mortal moment from Batman going, "Oh shit." And then the lasers come, and then the guitar riff I thought was really cool. You didn't like that, Todd?
No, I did. And that's what I think. I'm like, I wish it would have been Wonder Woman that had given the opportunity to kill, Doomsday because she knows Superman says, I can't do this because it's kryptonite. He would have been, Diana, you do it. Yeah. And she's like, I got this. I wish it had been that. And then it would have been like, Diana is close to death, but she survives. And that's when we've gotten like I just felt like the death of Superman added to this film was like, why do we have to add an extra feel where we was only introduced him in one film ago? And it's like, that's just too much. And it was just a misdirection. Yeah.
It was part of the overall storyline that they were going for, which again, I hope we finish it sometime in comic books, because it makes sense when you line it up on a wall. Yeah. But you can't do it in 5 hours total with 2 of Man of Steel, 3 of BVS. Well,
it just even the Return of Superman in the comics took how long? And it was Superboy and Cyborg and Superman Cyborg and all those characters. It just wasn't solved in next 45 minutes.
That's what I was going to say, because it was a year length, and it was John Henry Irons as Steel and Cyborg Superman and the
Cyborg Superman, the Eradicator, all those characters, and it was interesting. And it was interesting at the time, but I just wish we had gotten a different. We can't say what if, but maybe Zack Snyder gets a what if, like you said, Luke, with the animated or comics or whatever. Book. Why not?
Just like 89.
So, we did have, if I might jump in with a comment from our Discord, and this is from part of the family. This is from Peter. He's my co-host on 47. He agrees with the director's cut is way better to watch. I think I can agree to that. He says, obviously, so much was cut out of theatrical. 33 minutes is a lot of anything. Makes a better film, flow, plot-wise. That being said, the whole thing felt a bit rushed, what it was trying to do. Too many plates in the air. So he was the juggling. With him, it was the spinning plates. Agreed. The quick Justice League setup tacked on to the end was a nice teaser, but setting up the Justice League without Supes was a weird choice. Can't disagree. Can't disagree.
Yeah. And I always propose this. If you go through the death of Superman in this movie, the stakes of Superman dying again just feel so irrelevant going forward that was to me is like, how do you kill Superman again? Well, you don't have any context or consequences because he's going to come back again. Right. Well, for me, that was a big you can't take that away. And then he was brought into I don't want to go into the Justice League because it is what it is. But we're talking about this movie. But like I said, there's a lot of good things in this movie. But it was just I would say, not many people's control was the outcome of this movie, which is just sad.
Yeah.
Executives at WB, unfortunately, are challenged today because we don't even know if they'll exist in the future.
Well, yeah,
it's just a challenge.
There isn't even a WB Discovery. That whole thing is
We're getting HBO Max back, apparently, because Max is going away. Yay! David Zaslav is...
That makes it all worthwhile. All right, well, how do we wrap this up, guys?
Well, we give our scores. So we've been giving our scores throughout these movies. So, Luke, if we go out of 10, what would you give this film?
Ooh,
Ultimate Edition, not the original release, but Ultimate Edition.
As like a standalone film, or as part of a greater story? As a standalone film,
standalone. You have to judge each film as its own. Yes.
As a 6, I mean, there's no way to not be impressed by I thought the music is incredible, and the visuals are bar none just amazing.
Yeah,
particularly given the IMAX shots. Like you get some really cool shots there, and you've never seen a more badass Batman.
Yeah,
in any film than this. So it gets a 6, and an asterisk next to it is when told by a greater story. Then, like, I think it is a much better, more digestible thing when you watch it in segments, which is the same case for Snyder's Justice League also.
Right. I will. I'll be almost in league with that. I'll say this was a 50%. It was a 5 for me because the visuals did knock it out of the park. Again, the music was great. Some of the cues were great. A lot of strong emotion, but yeah, a lot of it's what we always said in advertising. It's, in a lot of ways, it's 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag. It's tough, and it needed to be 2 or 3 films to accomplish what it really wanted to do. So while I admire the ambition, the execution, as Todd said, kind of falls apart because it needed more that it didn't have. So it was a terrible conflux of pressure and time and what they wanted to do, and it gave us something that I think could have been greater. And that part of it I mourn somewhat because, like I said, best Bruce Wayne we've ever seen, the lethal Batman we've ever seen, and the first real honest to God warrior Wonder Woman that we've ever seen, and who put a mark on it that will never go away. It's pretty impressive stuff. All right, Todd.
Yeah, in the big picture of all these films, like I said, Man of Steel is my second Superman film. I love that film. It's great, except for some. What's it? My first? It's the original Superman. Yeah, just because we get to believe a man can fly. Christopher Reeve and some of those moments with Margot, it's amazing. They're very iconic, but there is so many problems with the rest of those series. It just doesn't work. And then comparing this to Batman Returns, which when I relook at that series, I'm like, that is just a hot mess. And I feel this is a much better take on Superman than Batman Returns, because I felt like that movie was just very weird. Bryan Singer, I didn't buy his take.
I assume you mean Superman Returns.
Superman Returns. Sorry, yeah. I mean, Batman Returns was weird too, because you had penguins and weird, sexy things, very and true. Next Shrek was very weird.
It was very confusing.
But I would say this film, I would give it a 6 out of 10 because I feel like we saw so many cool things with promise, but a lot of things just ended in a very frustrating mess for me. So I'll give it a 6 out of 10.
Fair enough. And that, gentlemen, ends the summer of Superman. We've got just a few weeks left until we hit the big enchilada. We'll be back to talk about that in force. But our honor has been to have Luke Lohr on board. Luke, God, it has been too long. And I got to get you back on code. We got some new things I think that would be a smaller time commitment for you to come back for. We'll talk about that off book. But
Luke, you only have to watch 8 hours of Star Trek a week to get prepared.
Oh, come on. It's every other week.
That's
come
true.
on now.
That's true.
Give me a break. But anyway, Luke, in the grand scheme of things, where do people find you out there?
I host a podcast called the Xbox Expansion Pass. That's probably your best bet to hear my voice. I am on a social network called Blue Sky, which some people use, some don't. You can find me there, Insipid Ghost there. But truly, if my voice was helpful in any way, shape, or form, check out the Xbox Expansion Pass. We do a lot of work over there.
Totally awesome. Todd, what about you?
Yeah, I just want to give a prop shot to Luke. I'm part of their Patreon. It's amazing. They do a great podcast every week where they listen to people. They ask our silly questions. So Luke's been great. Logan is great, and they have some amazing interviews as well. So support Luke if you love video games, because he loves Xbox, but he loves video games even more. But with me, I'm at the Blue Skies, at Todd Oxtra, at Secret Friends Unite, also Threads, at Secret Friends Unite, at Toxtra, and that is where you can find me.
Very nice. And I am on my big three, Instagram, Threads, and the Blue Sky at the C3, TheCeeThree. Post about geek stuff and pictures of my cats, etc. But more to the point, find us over at our Secret Friends Unite Discord. Great place to have chats, share ideas, and leave comments that could end up on our show. But with that, friends, as always, thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring, and to keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a truck.
Martha!
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.